Hello, dear listener, and welcome to my aesthetically displeasing desk, which is slightly out of focus, but it won't be for long, where I'm going to be drawing for you I'd say C minus wolf, but this is the first time I've painted in a long time, so I'm grading myself on a personal scale. I know it's going to get better, but I'm still going to give it a C minus. A plus for effort, though, if you are listening to this on the internet and not 100 years in the future because you found my computer in I don't know, cabin covered in nuclear waste somewhere. At least it's done. And I'm gonna try to, monologue now for 30 minutes. I'm very impressed by people who do this consistently, who can just talk about stuff without a script. Actually, maybe people do use a script. Maybe I should use a script, or at least have talking points of some kind, because I'm not really sure what I'm going to say for 30 minutes. I say that now, and I'll probably surprise myself and talk about all sorts of things. But we can talk about what I'm doing. So I am painting a wolf, and rather than doing it in pencil, which I can erase, I've started doing the sketch in some kind of gaudy pinkish color that I found, my sort of less good gouache. And I'm going to use a Zorn palette, mostly because it's really not to challenge myself, it's to give myself fewer options. I don't do well when there are no constraints. If you give me a million colors, I'll just have decision paralysis and never be able to finish anything. And I found that my brain, which I've had for 37 years now, slightly used, some damage, it doesn't do well without constraints. And that can be time or materials or anything really. I know for a fact that at work, if I give myself, or if I'm told, oh, just finish whenever, this task, finish it whenever, I'm not going to finish it until it becomes super urgent. I was the same at university. I would, the first essay I ever did, I did history, by the way. I started out by, diligently going to the library and doing research and all this stuff. I did my first essay on the first universities, and I didn't get a very good grade on that. It was sort of meh. It was sort of middle. And I thought, oh, well, I put in all this effort. And then I got a little bit contrary, and for the next essay, I was like, F it. I'm just going to do this really last minute, sort of the last 2 days before the due date, and lo and behold, the stress forced me to really focus, and I got an extremely high grade on that essay. So, of course, I never wrote essays any other way after that. I just did in the last minute to kind of motivate myself. So time, if I know I have limited time, I feel like I can make anything happen. Like, for example, I had about 45 minutes maybe to block of time in the evening to do this drawing, and I was like, okay, I know I only have 45 minutes, and after that I have to leave. I can't stretch it out, so I just have to do it in this one block. And then I did. And it's the same for cleaning. If I know I have 30 minutes on a timer somewhere, you clean for 30 minutes, then I will usually manage to do all of the cleaning I had decided to do. But just because I know I only have 30 minutes, basically what I'm trying to say is whatever task I assign myself, whatever time I have, it will fill that time. So if you give me half an hour, it'll fill that time. If you give me 3 days, it will fill that time. So time is a great constraint. And I also like limited palettes for that reason. If you think, oh, you're giving yourself a challenge using only 3 colors. I'm going to be using the Zorn palette when I eventually finish sketching out this wolf. But for me, it's just a relief that I don't have so many colors to choose from. And if I wanted to make green, I have to be really creative. I think the black you use with the Zorn palette has a slight blue in it, so you can mix the black with the yellow, and you get a sort of muted green, which is really nice. So I really like limited palettes because I don't have so much choice, and instead of being overwhelmed by the amount of options, I have to get creative, and I find I have a much better time that way. One fun way that I've used constraints in art beyond here we go, here's some color, beyond limited palettes is playing games. So I used to run an art club. I don't really have time these days, but the exercises are super fun. So you take 2 words, you can use a random word generator if you want, and you give yourself, let's say, in the beginning, 1 minute, just to stress yourself out, because why not? And in that 1 minute, you have to sketch, ideally in pen, something that combines both of those words. So if you have apple and scissors, you might draw like a little apple running with scissors. You might draw an apple skewered on a scissor blade. You might draw somebody cutting apples with scissors. You might draw a pair of scissors and an apple walking together because they're besties or something like that. It's super fun. And because you only have 1 minute, you have like 10 seconds to come up with an idea, and then 50 seconds to draw something. And it doesn't have to be good. And that's what's so nice. You can exercise your creativity within that 1 minute without having to think about it being good. You don't have time. You don't have time to be good, which I find really freeing. Of course, you can then, I don't know, do 3 words or do 2 minutes or whatever. But the point is you have a constraint, and it takes away the fear of that blank page, because you know you can't create a masterpiece in 1 minute. Well, maybe you can, but I can't. So you just sort of go with the flow, and it's really fun. Another game I used to play that has time constraints is, we used to call it Stressful 7. I think it's because the original group of people that played it there were 7 of us. And what we did was everybody thought of a word ahead of time. And then the first person would say their word, lamp. And then you would have you'd have 30 seconds to draw a lamp or sketch something like that. Just draw a lamp or something like that. And then the next person would say their word, and maybe it was globe. And you had to somehow incorporate globe into your existing sketch of a lamp. So you might put the lamp on the globe. You might turn the bulb, if it was exposed, into a globe. Or you might just draw the globe, I don't know, sitting above the lamp, because you're hoping that there will be another word from someone else that will tie them all together. And by the end of it, you have this kind of crazy drawing that incorporates all of these words. And again, because you're drawing something in 30 seconds, you don't have time to think about it being good. It's just a way to exercise your hand, to get your brain going. And by the time you've covered a few pages with these really funny, very creative, silly drawings, you're not so afraid to start drawing something a little bit more serious, or to do a study or something where you take a bit more care, because you've spent that time loosening up. And yeah, that's what I do now, to just on my own, to loosen up. Just take a couple of words, lamp, pen, plant, diaper, whatever, and mix them together and see what I get. And I have gone back in the past and found some of these, because I would fill sketchbooks with this really quickly, or just scrap paper. I've gone back and looked at them, and then redrawn them or combined them. I think we did that actually in the club. In the art club. We would maybe spend 20 minutes, 10 minutes going back and finding an old drawing like that you've done in a minute, and cleaning it up or using the idea. I think at some point we also took each other's weird drawings and cleaned them up. I think the social aspect really helped, and I want to go back to art club someday. Maybe even do something digital. I think we did do that during Corona. And just sit and draw whilst listening to some kind of soundtrack. And yeah, the social aspect definitely helped. I think, like a lot of people, I find it really hard to start drawing. I'll get sort of the urge to draw in the middle of a work day, and that urge will definitely be gone by the time I cycle home from work at, 5? And even if I've decided, oh, I'm definitely going to draw, I sort of circle my table like a scared animal looking at my tools. I don't know, there's so much, it feels like there's so much at stake, but nothing is at stake. I know it's that I'm going to sit down and I'm going to fail for the first 30 minutes because that's just the way it is. You need to warm up. When you do exercise, you have to warm up first, and those first squats might suck, or your lunges might be a bit wobbly, and I don't know why I'm able to give myself that grace when I exercise, but not when I'm drawing. But anyway, that's where a timed exercise really helps, or a time constraint. So you can see in my little drawing here that it's not going super well. I think the colors here are really watery. I'm using too many strokes. I haven't divided up this wolf into, like, I prefer it if I can go, okay, here's a large shape, let me, map that out. I feel like I'm going in too detailed, too early on in the process here. I mean, it looks okay at the end, and to be honest, I'm just really happy that I finished it. I think one of my issues is I tried, there were several, I tried to use a wet palette. And you can make one of your own by layering a kitchen towel, which you then soak in water, quite liberally, I was led to believe. And then you put a piece of parchment paper on top. Now, I don't know what happened. So I put squeezed my paints onto the wet palette, and I think maybe some droplets of water got onto the paint side of the palette, maybe. Because it's greaseproof paper. I don't think moisture is supposed to come through it. But I feel like my paints were diluted, so I didn't get that nice, creamy, opaque paint that I wanted. It was more like washes, and I don't know. I was really looking forward to having that nice, opaque look. I also forgot to bring kitchen towel up with me, so I could rinse and then dry my brushes. So I guess I'm pretty sure actually, like, I put water in a cap for detergent first of all, because I couldn't find any other container, and going downstairs for some reason filled me with dread. So I didn't do that, I improvised. And yeah, I ended up with watery looking paints, which I'm not really a fan of. But there you go. So there's a lot of layering paints on top of each other and changing my mind, and the eyes turn out a little bit a herp-a-derp in the end, but oh well, it's fine. It's fine. It's funny watching yourself draw like this. You kind of, it's like when you watch a horror movie and someone's going to do something stupid, like go into the house because they hear a noise, or I'm definitely going to go into the cellar where I just saw a dark shadow sort of slink by. Yeah, great idea. I'm screaming at myself like, use a larger brush, and that shape is too small, and you can't do anything about it. I'm definitely going to redo this exact same wolf, probably on the next page. It's super satisfying if you do the same image 2, 3, 4 times, and you watch yourself improve because you're learning that image. You've given yourself multiple tries at identifying what the shapes are and getting the proportions right. Because nobody's going to get the proportions right the first time around when you're a novice. I mean, I don't do this professionally or even a lot. This was the first thing I painted in months, like I said. So yeah, I was just happy to get it done. Okay, I've managed to kill 15 minutes. That's pretty good going. How do people do this, like, on a regular basis? I would run out of things to talk about. What can I talk about? I really like the thing people do where they do an underpainting or something. I don't know if you even do that gouache. I guess you can do a wash or something. I might try that. Like a wash of whatever color they want to shine through. I don't know why I used this very bright pink. I think because I wanted to see... I like it when little bits of that color... I like it when you can see little bits of the sketch color under the painting, but that only really works if your paint is very opaque, or for me, I feel it looks nicer if your paint is very opaque, and then you get a little bit of this bright color peeking out underneath. So I'll try to go for that next time as well, but you know, thicker paints. It's starting to look a little bit more like a wolf, I suppose. So in a minute I'm gonna do this thing, which I always do when I lose confidence, which is to go in with some pen. Because I feel like I'm not having a good time with these paints. And I remember feeling like, ugh, no matter how detailed I get and how small of a brush I end up using, I just don't have the confidence with paint. So I'm gonna go in and use pen and define details that way and sort of scribble a bit to cover up my lack of skill and confidence. But that's okay. I kind of think it looks cool when you use pen and paint together. It looks nice. Frankly, now that I look at it, I used to draw a lot of wolves when I was younger, and thinking back on it, how I used to draw them, this is a lot better than when I was 25, which was 1,000 years ago. But I have definitely improved, and I think most of that improvement... So I took 3 months, I'm going to do like a little side quest here, but I took 3 months off work. I was very lucky to be able to do that, a sabbatical, when I was in my 20s. And after the first, I don't know, week or so of feeling extremely guilty because I wasn't working, which, yeah, that was some kind of societal disease, I started drawing again for the first time since I was a kid. Or at least 18. I guess that's a kid. And I drew obsessively for 10 plus hours a day for 2 months. And it was amazing how much I improved during that time. And the crazy thing was, it wasn't until probably the last few weeks, 2 weeks maybe, of that sabbatical, where I actually started doing studies. I still improved, just through sheer force of will, I guess. And I don't know why. I think I was afraid to do studies because I knew it was going to be hard. But when I started, or at least using a reference, it was just nuts how much better my drawings were. I saw a before and after from a long time ago, and I mean, I couldn't draw faces. They were terrible. And then by the time I was done, I could draw something that vaguely resembled a human. And now, many years later, I think studies are the thing I do the most now. So I feel like I'm decent, you know, as a non-professional at... Here comes the pen. Okay, here comes the pen. I've lost confidence. But I'm decent at sort of capturing what's in front of me and drawing with my eyes rather than with my brain. You know how you sort of fill in what you think should be there? So one common thing that I'm sure lots of people do is when you're drawing faces, you make the eyes much bigger than they are. Sometimes in a face, the eyes are just tiny little dots or like a slit or something because of the way that the eyes are, like maybe they're closed or somebody is squinting. And I noticed when I started to really draw with my eyes by looking and not by thinking, I got much closer to what was on the picture that I was studying. And And you don't really have to study. Like, let's say you've spent a week studying hippos and elephants and whatever. The stuff you learn there carries through to, well, anything else. Like, you want to draw a wolf or a pickle or a hand. For some reason, hands are very hard, but I think no matter what you study, it'll make you better at drawing everything else. Hands, though, there's something about hands. I heard that if you were drawing something that people look at a lot, like faces or hands or, humans, it's much easier to spot the errors. Like, you will see it. It will be glaringly obvious that the eye's a bit wrong or the mouth is wrong or they look too uncanny valley-ish or, yeah. But if you draw a wolf or an elephant or a hippo that people don't really, they have like a vague mental image of what that should look like, but they don't know the details. They don't immediately spot like, oh, clearly this elephant's trunk is not in proportion with its eyes and the eyes need to be further down. Like, you don't know that unless you look at elephants a lot, which I don't. But yeah, there I go with the pen. It's like I'm styling it out. I'm going, I'll just draw some lines to indicate fur and call it good and really give this wolf some eyeliner. I think I do something later on to mess up the eyes, and I think they end up crossed at the end, which was not the original image, but that doesn't matter. It's fine. I think I used something off Pexels for this. Yeah, you go, girl. Use that pen. Make those squiggly lines. I had an art teacher who, at the time, I felt really offended when she said that I used a lot of impulsive mark making when I did art, but now I see or I understand that was valid criticism. She meant, I think, that I didn't have a lot of control in my lines, and that's super important, that you draw lines confidently, and not the squiggly stuff. I mean, here I'm not using it to construct anything, I'm just using it to add detail where I sort of failed with the paint. Is fine, but I'm still prone to impulsive mark making. I'm not neat when I draw or write or sketch or anything. I just put my hand to paper and then hope it goes the right way. I don't really think. I feel like my attention span is so fleeting that when I draw something like this, I can't like dilly-dally and spend ages on like the eye or the nose or something, because my attention is going to run out and then I'm never going to finish. So I'm in sort of panic mode all the time. See, I should have left it here, but I didn't. I tried to do some other stuff to the eyes. You'll see. Yeah, see, I cover the pupil. Ugh, and then it's just worse. You know what? It's finished. It's done. Let's not worry about it. But I get stressed that I'm not going to be able to maintain focus for long enough to finish something. I don't think I've ever finished anything. It may be one watercolor pen thing I did for my mother. I had this idea where, I don't know if you say this in English, but in Swedish you say you odlar fisk. So you farm fish. So I did this painting of fish in not a bucket, not a jar, but a pot. They were growing out of a pot, and that's like how fish were grown. And it's a watercolor, and it's finished. And she framed it, which was super sweet. And it makes anything look more profesh if you frame it. And she still has it. And I think that's the only thing I've ever finished outside of school art class assignments. Like, I finished sort of sketches and things. I finished a sketchbook, but I've never done like a piece where I've taped off the paper with washi tape and then like done the drawing and actually finished painting. It's always things like this that can be done fast. And yeah, I think that if I was going to set myself any art goals, and not on any timeline because it's just not going to happen, it would be to finish something. Maybe something from my own house. I would really like to draw something with a lobster theme, but I've tried. Lobsters are really hard to draw. Maybe a what is it called? A palette knife painting, because I really like the look of those, where because you're using a knife and it's quite clumsy, you have to make big shapes. You have to draw with confidence, and I think that looks so good. You can really tell when somebody's been confident when they are putting pen to paper or knife to paper or whatever. God, do I stop here? I hope I stop here, because this is not terrible. Like, please stop. Oh, girl. Ah, well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. You know what? This is not as bad as I remember it being when I painted it a few weeks ago, or a week ago. I guess it's just my eye is ahead of my hand, I think. And it's even worse when I know how I have once been able to draw. Like, I've looked back at sketchbooks when I've been drawing every day for at least an hour, and you get so good, or at least your hand starts to match up with what your brain is imagining. This was not too bad. I was being harsh on myself. I'm gonna upgrade this to a solid B-. But I really want to improve. Next time I want to take more time when I do the initial sketch, because I didn't give myself enough time to do that. I want to make sure that my colors are more, or my paint is more opaque, so that I focus on the mixing. But, and this was actually not that bad. Not that bad. Proud of myself. I'm just waiting for the moment where I mess it up. I have this vague memory that I make some executive decision towards the end that just ruins everything, but maybe that's not gonna happen. Maybe things just remember this being worse. But it's actually kind of nice. Yeah. And frankly, I really like watercolor. I know this is gouache, but I like watercolor and ink. Like, I love watercolor houses or cityscapes, or urban sketching stuff where you do watercolor and then you do a little bit of ink on top. I think that's really beautiful. Maybe I'll do that one day. Go and sit outside in the cold, because I'm in Northern Europe in February. Here we go. Yeah, I remember now. I messed with the eyes. Why did I do that? I guess I needed him to look a little bit more emo or something. He's giving Evanescence circa 2010. Yeah, we're definitely gonna attempt this guy again. Definitely. 3 minutes to go? Like, what am I? Yeah, okay, I realized my mistake. I see. Very good. Phew. Did I give him nostrils? Maybe? Oh well. Maybe I'll try a white wolf at some point. Although those, I find them really hard to draw because the color of the fur is so dependent on the environment. Yellow in there, really? No. Yeah, exactly. No, that's not what you wanted to do. Oh, past me. You did your best, didn't you? You did your best and you amused me, so that's good. I like the Zorn palette, though. I love that you have to be creative if you want certain colors, and I love how muted it is. Okay, yeah, fix your errors with some exciting color. Ah, that looks kind of cool. being very hard on myself. I think you should be nicer to yourself. Past you finished. Oh, here we go. Now the wolf has some eye makeup. Now he's ready for the club. Not the art club either, but the regular one. Gorgeous. He's done. Stop it. Well, I think that's the end of that. So I finished something, or I finished a sketch, which I'm really happy about. And I think I will try this again and try to be a little bit tighter with the paint, and hopefully I won't have to rely on pen so much next time. Boo. Thank you very much for joining me and listening to me babble on about nonsense. It's been a good time. Good night.